Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is a video I'm very excited to film. I am going to be using and giving my first impressions on the second Samantha March and Ofra collab. I know I'm a little late to the game here. I actually did not purchase this right when it first launched. I waited a little bit because I was not 100% convinced that this was the right product for me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that during my video. Really quickly, before we jump into the video, I just want to say a special welcome to anyone who might be new to my channel. Hi, I'm Morgan. I focus a lot of my content here on YouTube on conscious and mindful consumerism and being really satisfied with the makeup that you already own and purchasing things that you really think will be filling gaps and holes in your makeup collection. If that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to have you subscribe before you go today. And now let's go ahead and jump right into unboxing this beauty. Alrighty, so in the intro, I alluded to the fact that I was not 100% sure I wanted to purchase any part of this collection when it was first launched. I really admire Samantha March. I think she's a wonderful creator who's very community-minded. So when this collection first launched, although I really wanted to support Samantha, I was not so sure it was going to be the right product for me. And that's because of the specific products that are included. So while I unbox this quickly at the beginning of this video, I'll talk through and touch on why I was unsure of some of these and why I ultimately decided to purchase this, and now that it's in my hands, kind of how I'm feeling about it. So the whole collection, if you buy the PR package, which is what I obviously bought, comes with this little kind of mailer package that looks like a little journal. And then behind this kind of flap here is where everything's stored. It comes with some cute little stickers. And then getting into the actual makeup here, you get kind of two distinct things that are also sold separately on the Ofra website. So if you would just want to purchase like one half of this collection, you can do that as well. So the two kind of items that come in here are the Life's a Draft Mini Mix Face Palette and a trio of Ofra lip glosses. So first up, just touching on these glosses here, the reason I was kind of hesitant about this is because I'm currently doing a project pan this year. I'm really loving that, and I have a lip gloss in there that's sort of this kind of a style of lip gloss. It's more transparent, and then it has those like glittery, sparkly particles in it. And frankly, I'm making no progress on panning that lip gloss because it's just not a product that I'm currently wearing a ton right now. However, I have been lusting over this middle shade here called Millie since Samantha March had her first collab with Ofra last year. And I thought, why not? I can always save the other two for a giveaway if I decide I don't want to try them out. I've also tried all of Ofra's other lip product formulas before, so I thought it would be nice to kind of round that out and also have a good solid opinion of the lip gloss formula as well. So I am going to keep Millie for myself. So I'll wear this today in the video, but I did also just want to show you the other two shades that come in this package if you were interested. So this one over here is Peony, and it's like a nice rosy shade. And then the third one is Queen, and that is a copper. So I have not officially decided whether or not I'm going to keep these two. It's probably going to depend on how much I enjoy the formula after I try Millie out a few times. So for now, these are going to sit to the side. If you're looking for swatches of all three of these products to see kind of how they differ, I would just direct you back to Samantha March's videos. She does a really thorough job of covering that. And then the second half of this PR package, which also is sold on its own, is the Life's a Draft Mini Mix Face Palette. And this is the part that I was actually even more hesitant about than the glosses, because I don't always gravitate towards these kind of combined eyeshadow and face products. So you get these 8 eyeshadows at the top, and then you get a bronzer, highlighter, and blush down at the bottom half. And although I totally see the appeal of this for travel, I just personally know that I'm either going to store this with my face products or I'm going to store it with my eyeshadows, and I'm worried that it's going to lead to me forgetting about kind of the other half of this palette. Ultimately though, I could not resist these mauve tones. Mauves are some of my absolute tippy-top favorite shades to wear, and I've never tried the Ofra bronzer or blush formula. So I do ultimately think that even if I sometimes forget about one half or the other half of this palette, I still have a strong enough desire to try out this color story that it was a worthwhile purchase for me. Now, just like with the lip glosses, I'm not going to go through and swatch every single shade in this palette. Samantha's done that. There's tons of photos on the Ofra website and on the Instagram from Ofra and Samantha March. So I'll pop a photo here of the full range of swatches just in case you're curious. But one thing I do want to do today is swatch some of these shades that to me in the palette look very, very similar. And I'm a little concerned that this is getting almost too monochromatic. So we'll see together if that's the case. But before I do that, I want to actually put some of these products on my face. So I already have foundation, concealer, and brows done. And then I have two things to mention that are gonna affect the performance of this product on my face. The first thing is that I am wearing an eyeshadow primer. I'm just using the Milani eyeshadow primer. I just know personally that these eyeshadows will not stay put throughout the day if I don't use a primer with them. And then the other important thing to note is that I powdered under my eyes on both sides of my face, and then I powdered the entire right side of my face fully. My whole entire face is powdered. I do that because in the summer, I like to powder my face before I apply bronzer, blush, and highlight. But in the winter, I do not like to powder my face because I have very dry skin. So my ideal preference is that bronzer, blush, and highlight can be worn really nicely and blended out very beautifully, both with a powdered and unpowdered foundation underneath. That's not always the case. They don't always work super well on an unpowdered complexion, and I just like to know that ahead of time. So now that all of that blabbering is out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the palette first. I am super excited for the face products. I'm gonna use all three of these today, so I'm gonna apply them in the order that I tend to prefer to apply them, which is bronzer, then highlight, and then blush over the top. So I'm dipping into the bronzer, which is called Key, and I'm gonna tap off my brush because I've never used Ofra's bronzers before, and this one's quite a deep shade, so I just wanna make sure I don't over apply too much. That's a really nice warm bronzer without being too orange toned. So I will say I barely have any product on my brush, and it's certainly giving me good color payoff, so it's very pigmented. So I'm glad I went in nice and light-handed. This is on the side of my face that's powdered. It blended very, very beautifully, but it's definitely pigmented. Now onto the unpowdered side. Sometimes products that are this pigmented do have a little bit of trouble because they stick and kind of grip, and then I'm not able to blend them out. So we'll see how this one does. Okay, I'm happy to report I think that went on beautifully on the unpowdered side as well. I do prefer to put my highlighter below my blush, and I know that Ofra's highlighters are very, very, very shiny, so I think that this will help it kind of just blend in and look a little more natural. That's a really, really beautiful shade of highlighter. On my skin tone, that is like a perfect highlight without it also looking like a stripe or a stark line across my face. It looks like a very, very natural, beautiful glow. I love that shade. I have tried Ofra's highlighters before, and they've always given me kind of more of an icy appearance than this, so I'm really, really excited about that one. I forgot to say the name of that. That highlighter is called Dream Chaser, and now I'm gonna apply the blush, which is called 6. Look how beautiful that shade is. I can almost use that as like a sunburnt kind of bronzery shade. I really, really love that. Definitely pigmented. I applied too much on this side, and unfortunately it's the unpowdered side, so I may need to go in with a powder now to kind of blend that patch out. That's not really the product's fault, that's my fault. I put too much in one spot. Going in with my powder brush, I don't have any extra powder on it. I'm just gonna kind of try to diffuse that patch there that I created. Alrighty, complexion is done. Let's move on to eyes. I think I want to do something fairly simple. So I'm going to do maybe this in the crease, and then I'm going to deepen things up with that matte there. So just going in with the shade 09 in my crease. So my first observation is that those cheek products were extremely pigmented, and the eyeshadows are not. Not in a bad way, and I also already knew that about Ofra's eyeshadows. I do have an Ofra eyeshadow palette already called Sweet Dreams that I absolutely adore. And one of the things I actually love about them is that they're really, really beautiful, buildable mattes. They almost never like overpower me. I always feel very in control, and like I could blend and blend and blend for days and it will just get more and more diffused. So I think if you're like a colorful makeup lover and you're hoping to like get a lot of like mauve-y payoff from this, you may not get what you're looking for. But if you're someone more like me, like just a normal, casual, everyday makeup user, and you want something that's going to be nice and easy, this may be a good palette for you. That truly is a really beautiful mauve shade. It looks a little deeper in the pan than it does on my eye, and I love how it's turning out. Okay, so I also put that shade 09 underneath of my eyes, and I'm really happy with it there because usually mauves don't play super well with my under eyes. I have dark circles under there, so sometimes it makes me kind of just look tired and like I have darker, deep circles than I do. But this one has just enough pink in it that it's actually very, very flattering under my eyes. I am going to do like a small wing with the dark purple matte called Ram, and then I'm going to decide about shimmers. I'm not sure if I want to use one at all, but I'm going to do the liner first. This is a beautiful shade as well. So I am going to use a shimmer only because I'm curious about the formula. I kind of already mentioned that I feel like Ofra's formulas for their face products versus their eye products are like pretty drastically different. With their matte eyeshadows, they're really, really not very pigmented, whereas that bronzer that I put on had a ton of pigment. The same is kind of true for their more shimmery, sparkly products. The eyeshadow palette that I already own from Ofra has one shimmer in it, and it really is more of a satin than a true shimmer. And it's so odd to me that that's the situation because Ofra's highlighter formula is so like bam, in your face, shiny. So it just feels to me a little bit weird and disconnected, but I will say you do have a highlighter in here, so if you are craving that super shiny, sparkly, metallic look, Ofra has said that these 3 face products are also eye safe, so you can always use those on your eyes as well if you want that kind of bam moment. So I'm gonna try out this lighter pink shade down here to see how that compares to what I've usually seen from Ofra. So definitely more of a satin, like I was saying. So you can see the shine there, but it's definitely more of a refined shine. I do like it. I think it has its purpose. And if you have a lot of like texture on your eyelids, a formula like this is going to be very, very flattering and not emphasize fine lines, wrinkles, things like that. I will probably put the highlighter on my inner corner here as well, just for that extra pop. Just getting in a little closer here so that you can really see kind of the texture of that shimmer shade and kind of see what I mean when I say, to me, it feels a little bit more like a satin than a true blinding shimmer. I am going to hop off camera, do my mascara, and then before we move on to trying out this lip gloss formula for the first time, I want to swatch a few shades in that palette. Back with mascara on, and before we do lips, let's chat about some of these shades. So I feel like every time I'm looking at a palette like this online, I personally have a really hard time distinguishing between shades that might be similar because of the way things are usually swatched. So normally if I were swatching this whole palette out for you, which I just don't think is helpful at this point, there are tons of people who've already done it, but if I were, I would start in the top left corner, I'd go across the row and then I'd go down to the second row and do the same. And then I would do the 3 face shades at the bottom. So basically in like reading order, right? Like if I were reading a book, that's how I'd read it. The thing that's hard for me with swatches like that is that I was dying to know how similar or different some of these shades were. And because they never fell next to each other on the swatches, it's really hard for me to tell. So now that I have this in my hands, here's what I want to do. I want to swatch this, and this matte shade next to each other. I hope you can tell on the camera that they are slightly different, but I want them lined up right next to each other so that I can really tell if there are differences in undertone that will actually pick up on the eyes. So that one I kind of knew going into it that I wanted to compare those. But then since opening this up, a different similarity struck me as well that I'm also curious about. And that is the blush and this shimmer that I just used all over my lids. So I'm gonna swatch these 3 mattes and be back with them to show you. Okay, so they're swatched in this order. They're swatched in the order of 09, 23, and then Peace. So 09 is on the top there, that's this one up in the corner. Then the one on the bottom row, the third one in, is the middle shade on my arm. And then the top corner over here is the last one. And I hope you can see they are actually all very, very different once they're lined up next to each other. That was really interesting. That was actually going to be one of my top criticisms of this palette after having just looked at it, is that those 3 shades seemed really similar. But in fact, they are not similar at all. So now let's try out the blush versus this shimmer here. Okay, those are disappointingly similar. So the shade right here is the eyeshadow and the shade here is the blush. And you can see, I mean, to my eye, those look similar enough that I do think that's too much redundancy in a palette this small. Although that eyeshadow, so the one on this side, it does have a little bit more of a reflective quality when you look at them side by side. So there is a difference in texture, but just in case you were curious like I was, those really are essentially the same shade. So one hit and one miss when it comes to kind of trying to decide if there's redundancy in this palette. I think the eyeshadows, the mattes that I thought would be similar, are dramatically different. I don't have any concerns there, but it is a bummer to me that the blush and the eyeshadow are that similar in tone and texture, and that, you know, you get a huge pan of blush and then do you really need another eyeshadow with that same kind of formula? But the beauty is that these are all actually magnetic pans that you can take out, so you can stick something small in there and pop all of these out. So if it did bother you that those were super similar, you could either swap it out for a different Ofra blush or a different eyeshadow, probably from multiple brands. This is a pretty standard eyeshadow size, it looks like. Okay, and last but certainly not least, I'm gonna try out the Millie gloss. So I am just gonna line my lips with any old lip liner, and then I think I'm gonna just put this on bare lips with just a lip liner. That's one of my favorite ways to wear a more shimmery, shiny gloss like this. Moment of truth. It's just a nice kind of normal sized doe foot. Wow, that's a lot of glitter in there. Holy cow, that is shiny. Okay, I'm telling you, Ofra is super unpredictable to me. This is like an insane lip gloss. I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of expected it to be like that based on the tube, but like, man, I'm kind of loving it. This is very, very different than other lip glosses I have that are glittery like this. I didn't expect this texture. So it is like, I can feel the pieces of glitter on my lips, but like if I rub my lips together, it feels almost like extremely fine sand, which doesn't sound pleasant, but it's not as bad as I'm maybe making it out to sound. It just threw me for a loop because I did not expect that. I feel like I expected it to be just different, but I will say it's really not sticky. It's kind of growing on me. And now I'm less certain that I'm gonna give away those 2 other shades of this because I like this And I am glad that this is the first one I tried, but I'm really, really curious about those other two, how much the base pigment actually would show up. Because when I dabbed this on my lip, you saw it was like white. It looked just completely white on my lips until I spread it out. So I'm kind of curious if that pink and copper one are actually more pigmented than maybe I thought they were going to be. I haven't decided yet. I'm not going to open them in this video and swatch them because I really do want to preserve them for a giveaway if I decide that this formula is not my favorite. So I'm going to keep playing with this, and then someday, hopefully in the future, I will have an update for you all on whether or not I decided to open the other two. Okay, so I can just feel in my heart of hearts that this was a pretty long video compared to most of my videos. So thank you so much for bearing with me if you've made it this far. I wanted to do something a little different with this video than I've kind of already seen of the reviews of this collection because I am a little late to the game. So I wanted to give kind of a slightly different perspective of someone who is pretty conflicted about buying this palette and the glosses. I was not sure about either of them, and then somehow, coincidentally, I ended up ordering the whole PR package that came with everything. So I did want to try to give a slightly different perspective because I was not 100% on board with this release from the beginning. But I will say, after trying all of these things out, I'm feeling really confident in having purchased this. I really love how this eye look turned out. Mauves really are one of my favorite tones to play with, and I feel like this palette is colorful but approachable. So if you're someone who's normally a neutral eyeshadow wearer and you're really looking for a way to start branching into color, I really think this could be your perfect palette for a more colorful vibe. If you are somewhere in the neighborhood of my skin tone, all three of those cheek products were absolutely beautiful. The lip glosses are interesting to me. I'm gonna have to keep testing them out. I definitely don't have a formal solidified thought yet, so stay tuned for updates on that. The formula definitely is different than I was expecting, and I can absolutely feel the glitter on my lips, which is just an odd sensation. I've just never had that before, so I don't dislike it necessarily, but I definitely need more time to form a full opinion on it. This sounds a little bit trivial, but I will say, just looking at my face, I feel more beautiful, pretty and romantic and beautiful than I've felt in a long time with this look. These tones are all very soft and romantic and ethereal, and the cheek products are just truly unbelievably beautiful. So there's something to be said for that, right? I have a lot of makeup that makes me feel a ton of different ways, and when I want to feel beautiful, only certain makeup that I own can actually give me that specific feeling, and this is giving me that feeling. I hope that this was useful for you. If you are like me and you're kind of on the fence about whether or not this collection is for you, I really hope this helped. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, whether it was helpful for you or not. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving it a thumbs up down below and subscribing to my channel before you head out. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.